The more we know about quantum physics, the more there is to learn. This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my special guest is quantum physicist, Dr. Amit Goswami. It all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California, Guys Radio, my worldwide podcast, and we're on UK Health Radio all weekend long. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio, it is the interview portion of our show, and today we're going to welcome back one of our favorite guests, Dr. Amit Goswami, Ph.D., professor, researcher, best-selling author, quantum science pioneer, spiritual practitioner. He is a spiritual practitioner and calls himself a quantum activist in search of wholeness. He does so much work in the quantum area. We're going to talk all about that today with Dr. Goswami, and also we're going to get into his new book and some of the other books and a little bit more about him. He's a retired professor from the physics department of University of Oregon, renowned pioneer of the new paradigm of quantum science based on the primacy of consciousness. In 2009, Amit started a movement called Quantum Activism, and it's now gaining ground around the world. And at the same time, he established a center for quantum activism called CQA, with his headquarters in the US. And he works with Dr. Valentina Azamor, forgive me, and they work together on a lot of the books, and I welcome them both to Guys Radio today. So thank you, Dr. Goswami, for visiting us.
Oh, I'm delighted.
Okay, so let me tell the folks a little bit about a couple of the books you've written, so they have some sort of context if they're not familiar with your work. Hero's Journey, Quantum Style, The Quantum Brain, Return of the Archetypes, which I have a copy of that right here for those who are watching on YouTube. Quantum Spirituality, The Self-Aware Universe, Quantum Doctor, Physics of the Soul, Quantum Creativity, the Everything Answer book, and the new book, The Ascent of Humanity, which has just been released. So let's talk about quantumness and quantum science for the benefit of our audience who's heard the term, and we hear it more and more every day, but they're not sure exactly what it means. What is quantum science? How did you get into it, Dr. Goswami, and why is it important?
I would love to. Quantum physics actually was originated with dealing with particles of light. Light, it was found, consists of grains, building blocks. And this was surprising because light was known to be wave before then. How can the same thing be wave and a particle? And later, it was found that material objects are also, although generally recognized as particles, they are also waves. So both matter and light are both wave and particle. And this is a very puzzling thing because, as you know, particles are localized. They can only be at one place at one time, but waves are spread out. You know, like if you throw a pebble in the pond, they will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So how can waves be at so many different places at the same time, whereas particle, which is one place at one time, how can the same object be both things?
Mm-hmm. That's the question. What's the answer?
Yes, exactly. A resolution was suggested by Niels Bohr, which is called complementary. That wave and particle are complementary aspects of one thing, and you can measure only one thing at a time, either the wave aspect or the particle aspect. However, very recently, it has been found that indeed this is not so. The particle aspect and wave aspect can be measured in the same experiment. It's not by that one has to be made by one kind of experiment, one has to be made by another kind of experiment. So this complementarity principle is wrong. So what replaces it, right? Actually, it's not that difficult, the beginning at least. The beginning is not difficult because what was found when quantum mathematics was discovered, that quantum objects are waves. period. They're simply waves. When we measure them, however, we must assume that they become particles. So they are waves, but when we measure them, they become particles because we never see the waveness in daylight. We never see. So this is the problem. This is still a problem. Where do waves reside then? These waves, they do not reside in space and time. Where do they reside then? And here is where we suggest that we have the avant-gardes among us, including me, of course. We suggest that they must reside outside of space and time. In other words, there are two domains of reality. There is space and time, and there is also a domain outside of space and time. Let's call it domain of potentiality. Okay?
Okay.
This is the basic solution. So basic solution is, okay, wave and particle are not at the same time. They are really at different places, and therefore there is no paradox.
Okay. So what is the ramifications of that, doctor, for people? And
So
for us?
But this is enormous. This is the first connection with spirituality. Material tradition that has now grasped science over 60 years suggests that matter in space and time is all of reality. And many people today believe it and become atheists completely. So this is the first time that science is suggesting, in fact, insisting that there must be two domains of reality, not one domain. Just like spiritual traditions are telling us for millennia that there are two domains of reality. One is consciousness and the other is manifest. One is unmanifest consciousness and the other is manifest consciousness, in which consciousness divides itself into subject and object. So you see how serious the solution is, because it establishes a sort of connection between science and spirituality.
Yeah, that's amazing. So does that have anything to do with, work with me on this, that some people believe that, we experience time in a linear fashion. However, time is actually, everything's happening at the same time. Is this part of this, or you're a drop of water in the ocean? So you're the drop of water, but you're also the ocean. Are those similar concepts to what you're referring to?
Yeah, you're also water and same and also same as the concept as the ocean is somewhat correct. You cannot be too much misled by it. But everything happening at the same time, that is not the case in manifest reality. In manifest reality, time has one way only, towards the future. In unmanifest reality, however, everything does happen in the same time. There is no concept of time going one way. And so, yes, it is partially correct.
And is that what quantumness kind of means? It's about the kind of the wave and the particle. Is that the basis of quantum physics?
So basis of quantum physics, all objects are seemingly wave and particle, but examination shows that waves reside in a domain of potentiality and particles reside in the manifest reality of present time. So when waves are measured, then they become particle. This is quantum physics.
Okay. And why is this important, and how does this relate to and change everything we've learned about science in the past?
Then you have to go into more things. So the more things came when, first of all, Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen, three great scientists, they discovered that in the domain of potentiality, if two objects are correlated, then they can connect without any signal across any distance. This is called non-locality. If two objects are correlated, how are they correlated? They are correlated by coming close and interacting. If they come close and interact, they become correlated. Another word is used is entangled. As a result of this entanglement, they can communicate at any distance without any signal. So what does that mean? In relativity theory, only signals can connect between things. Without any signal, nothing can propagate. And that means that every propagation takes a little time, because signals have a finite time to move around space. They have a speed limit. So you see, the problem is very serious. There is not only another domain. In that domain, there is a special characteristic called non-locality, signal-less communication. Okay, now what does that mean? We all know that we can really communicate only with ourselves. We really cannot communicate with anybody else, only with ourselves. So what it means is that two people or two things, if they are correlated, they become oneself. There's just one thing. So oneness comes in. It's another aspect of spirituality that spiritual traditions are talking about, oneness of everything. That also quantum physics is supporting. This is the second thing. And then when I say the third thing, that will be the really telling thing.
Okay.
Shall I continue?
Sure. Please.
Okay, so the third thing was started by John von Neumann, another great scientist. So he was concerned about the measurement problem. How does exactly the wave becomes a particle upon measurement? How does it happen? He proved a theorem on the wave. The theorem says that no quantum wave can be transformed into a particle. No quantum wave can transform into a particle with just material interaction. Very important. Listen very carefully. With material interaction, no wave can transform into particle with just material interaction. But what does that mean? That means non-material interactions have to enter. What is non-material about anything that is around a quantum measurement? Quantum measurement usually consists of these very, 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 very small objects, and then we amplify them with something like Geiger counter or cloud chamber. They have different names, but they are all amplifying apparatus. They amplify the object, and then we can see them. This is the idea of quantum measurement.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
But now we are saying that material objects cannot measure. Geiger counter or cloud chamber, they're not really measuring them. They're just amplifying them, not measuring them. They're still waves of possibility. They're still waves of potentiality. So this is a serious problem. How does one solve it? One must bring in the observers that von Neumann.
Okay. A lot to digest there. You use the term consciousness frequently when talking about a conscious living, a quantum living, rather. What is, in your estimation, how do you define consciousness, and how does it impact quantumness and quantum living?
Okay, so we'll come to slowly, because consciousness is a very difficult concept to many people. Although we are all conscious, I mean, that is our specialty. Human beings are conscious. But nevertheless, people don't necessarily understand what it means to be conscious. So first of all, what we experience as consciousness is a subject-object split. What we experience is that I am an experiencer who experiences objects, like I see you. Okay? So there is an object and there is a subject. I is a subject, I see you. Seeing happens.
Mm-hmm.
I do it, and you are the object. So this is what we call consciousness generally. Spiritual traditions are saying that consciousness has another layer in which everything is one. Consciousness is the ground of everything. Okay. So this creates a spiritual tradition. Two domains of reality, one is non-manifest, in which consciousness is oneness, and the other is manifest. Manifest consciousness divides into a subject and an object. So this is so far good?
Yes.
Okay, then quantum measurement theory, bring back quantum measurement theory. And then von Neumann is suggesting that, well, in the measurement situation, there is the object, there is the amplifying apparatus, but it does not act as a measurement apparatus. It cannot measure because it is material. And therefore, what can measure must be something non-material. What is non-material about the measurement situation? There is one more thing, which is the observer. Observer has consciousness, and consciousness is non-material. This is what von Neumann suggested. Okay. But there is paradox. Why? And then this is a beautiful paradox. If two people simultaneously try to measure a quantum object at the same time, two people at the same time simultaneously try to measure one quantum object in the same experiment. Some Newman is suggesting that the observer chooses the state of the particle, where the particle will appear when it is measured, because particle has many possible places to appear. The observer's consciousness chooses where the particle will appear specifically. But
Okay.
if there are people with consciousness, then they can choose different places for the particle to appear. No particle has ever appeared in two places at the same time. That's the definition of a particle. And therefore, there is still a paradox. Who gets to choose?
Okay. My special guest, Amit Goswami, Ph.D., Return of the Archetypes is one book, and we're talking about the ascent of humanity. Tell us a little bit about the new book, why you wrote it, and what it's about.
Okay, so I'm not finished yet, though. I still need to make one more point.
Okay, please, I'm sorry.
No point. So this is what Newman is suggesting, but there is still a paradox. Who gets to choose? How to solve this paradox? And now it becomes complete integration of science and spirituality. Because after many years of huge struggle, I finally discovered that, it has to be that consciousness is one for every object for such measurements. Consciousness is one. There are no two consciousnesses choosing ever for such measurements. Okay, and therefore, consciousness is one. Consciousness is the ground of being in which material objects and non-material objects acts as possibility for consciousness to choose from. This is the final solution of the quantum measurement problem. There is now no paradox.
Okay. All right. Ooh, that's a lot. Tell us about the new book and why you wrote it and why now.
Well, the new book is about evolution.
The ascent of humanity.
The ascent of humanity is partially about evolution of human beings. You know, Darwinism has many concepts which cannot be experimentally verified, and many concepts which experimental but cannot be theorized from Darwin's theory. So Darwin's theory is not really a complete theory. And when we do Darwin in the proper way, then we find that evolution progresses from very primitive evolution to complex evolution. In other words, creatures become simple initially, but they're more and more complex as time goes, which means that there is a direction of time. By looking at evolution, you can tell how time is proceeding from the past to the future. And there is also purposiveness, because why should it be complex? There must be purpose behind evolution. And these two things are not covered in Darwinism. So the question is, what should replace Darwinism? This is the first question that I solved. But why is it important to solve? Because once we figured out that, yes, there is a future to humanity, in Darwinism, there is no future. Time can go both in the past, or in other words, object can be both simple to complex and complex to simple. There is no barrier from going from complex to simple. But generally, it is simple to complex. So there is a barrier. There is a time, one-way time. There is purpose in the evolution.
Okay.
So what good does it do to say there is purpose in evolution? The best that it comes to us is that human beings are evolving. They are the epitome of evolution right now. But human beings, obviously, by the same token, can even evolve further towards better and better. Of course, better and better has to be defined. In Darwin, there is only survival. So there must be something bigger than survival. That was discovered by Abraham Maslow and spiritual traditions for many millennia, which is that There are survival needs and there are also higher needs. When survival needs are fulfilled, then people follow the higher needs and try to fulfill them. It is this high fulfillment of higher need that produces the future of humanity.
Okay.
And in fulfilling the higher needs, human beings become better and better and better and better and better. This is the idea of ascent of humanity, is forever ascending.
Okay. Here's what I'd like to do now. I think we kind of went down into the rabbit hole a little bit as to, the foundation of what quantum physics is and quantum living is. And I think I'd like to ask you some questions about just really about some concepts that people have heard about. They're not sure what they mean. We'd like to get your perspective as a quantum physicist on them. So how about, let's start with timelines, shifting timelines. Some talk about, you hear about this more and more, that you have to raise your frequency and get into the right timeline. What does all of that mean, and is it true?
Well, time, say it again, I didn't quite understand the question.
Okay, timelines, the shifting of timelines. Is this something that you explore at all and with your quantum studies?
Timeline.
Yeah, timeline shifting, where
Well,
so apparently there's a lot of things that could happen at the same time.
okay, so this is the thing. In the domain of potentiality, everything is at the same. I mean, it's not quite that. What it is that time and space does not exist in the form that it exists in space and time, where there is definite flow of space, the space is distributed, and there is also time, which is one-way time, goes from past to the future. This is in the manifest space and time. In the unmanifest, all this is part of consciousness, that part of that oneness.
Okay.
Space exists as a parameter. Time also exists as a parameter. As a parameter, they can go both ways. Time can go both ways, space can be everywhere. As parameter, though, they're not real time, they are not their real space. When the wave collapses into a particle, then time becomes one way and space becomes everywhere.
Oh, I guess my question is, can humanity, if everybody raised their frequency, can we shift the trajectory of the timeline of what's going on the planet and what may be in place for us?
We cannot shift the one-wayness of time in any which way. The one-wayness of time is imposed upon us, just as we cannot shift the space that comes around when unmanifest is manifest. So these things, human beings are not handleable by human beings. Human beings cannot shift, although people make various comments or in popular magazines about people has possibility of time travel and all this, but quantum physics does not allow it.
It's not allowed time travel.
There is no way that we can shift time, one-wayness of time. Time always flows from the past into the future. And similarly, space is everywhere. That also cannot be changed.
How about the notion, Dr. Goswami, that we're living in a matrix? What's your perspective on that?
Well, the matrix is a very interesting idea, but it's an idea originated in a film, and we'd better stay as a film. Well, that's what it belongs. It's really, we obviously, reality is not something being controlled from outside. It cannot be that way. Reality is, quantum physics is clearly saying, reality is an unmanifest coming to manifest upon measurement.
Okay, what's your perspective on a higher power then? Do you believe in a supreme being or God, or well, how does quantumness address that?
Well, this is the thing. Supreme being causes a confusion because we understand being as human being, that is a being.
Mm-hmm.
But being that is everything is very difficult to conceive. Consciousness is the ground of all being. Human being, human experience, animal being, animal experience, non-material object, material object. Everything belongs to consciousness as possibilities of consciousness to choose from. You see? So this kind of question is not really relevant very much. because consciousness is, there is unmanifest and there is manifest. In unmanifest, there is only oneness. This oneness breaks up when we manifest. This is what is the reality. And in that manifest reality follows some rules, and these rules are called quantum science.
How does energy and frequency work into the paradigm, if you will, of quantumness?
Well, energy, of course, physical energy. By energy, we usually mean physical energy. This new science expands that concept. It says not only there is physical energy, there is a vital energy, there is mental energy, there is even archetypal energy. So you can call everything energy, but they're different. Non-material energy exists, not just material energy.
Mhm.
So one of the great efforts we make in our education that we give is this idea that there are non-material energies, and they are very important. Like vital energy is the software of the material hardware. This hardware-software concept is extremely important in quantum biology. In fact, one of the big defects of the molecular biology that governs mainstream biologists today is that they don't have any concept of software. It is software and hardware that when you make that connection, that's when you get quantum biology. And that's when you get the future. Because the future evolution is not an evolution of hardware. Hardware evolution takes very long time, over many billions of years. Actually, besides the 3.8 billion years we have been evolving the hardware. But the software evolution started very much with humanity. Before humanity, there is not much evolution of the software. But humanity, because they fulfill higher needs, software starts developing at a very rapid rate, and this is why we change so much so quickly. Notice the just 12,000 years we have been around in written history, and how much we have developed during that time. And then we have unwritten history going back to hundreds of thousands of years. And in fact, our civilized history, people now estimate that began probably 70,000 years ago. For 70,000 years ago, we have been non-animals, civilized beings. But still, that is so small compared to the 3.8 billion years that we have been around, right?
What's your perspective, Dr. Goswami, and my special guest, Dr. Amit Goswami, one of the foremost quantum physicists in the world? What's your perspective on transhumanism?
Yeah, so that is a very, very good point, good suggestion. That what we call currently humanism, that must be transcended. And that transcended humanism was actually suggested by Ph.D. and Sri Aurobindo in the last century. But quantum physics analyzes it, it beautifully explains how that happens and everything. This is what the book really about. How humans become transhumans, transcend the current humanness.
Is this with chips, though? Are you talking about because you mentioned hardware being chipped, or is this a different version of transhumanism?
Yeah. Exactly. Shift of the software. It cannot be done. The genes don't change in the next thousands or even 100,000 years. Genes don't change that fast. But what changes is the software. Software can change, and software is now right now is a little bit stuck. Software is stuck because we have become very rational beings. We are not listening to the message of consciousness anymore, because rational beings can solve problems by rationality. They don't need consciousness to solve problems. Consciousness solves problems with us by a process called intuition. Today, scientists don't allow intuition to enter the picture. And this is the problem. Both Shanda and Aurobindo, they propose that intuition will come, that's the next phase of humanity, the intuitive human. And quantum is supporting it. Yes, the next phase will be intuitive human or transhuman, transcending the current rational human being.
So do you mean then by transhumanism actually a physical chip that people will get, like Musk has suggested? Is that what you're saying?
A physical shift, but it is a non-material shift manifested in the material. It's a shift is actually non-material in the software, non-material software.
So it's in the consciousness. You're not talking about a physical chip being embedded into somebody's brain.
Physical chip being embedded in the hardware by the software with the help of the software. And that is what changes our physiology. So our physiology already is changing. Many people have different physiology than others.
Mm-hmm.
For example, some people, like many mystics, even many women, they experience the heart. But many other people, they cannot experience heart and love. They experience defensiveness in the heart. They don't experience love in the heart. So many people are very puzzled. How does people talk about love? What is it?
Mm-hmm.
But some people are not puzzled. They obviously know what to do, what loves and what one does, and they are obviously loving people. And so the physiology actually has changed in the heart.
Right.
And similarly, physiology can change in the brain, physiology can change in the navel, physiology can change.
Okay. Let me try this the last time because I want to make sure everybody's clear on your perspective. When I say transhumanism and I say a physical chip, I mean a physical chip being embedded.
Physical shift.
Are you in favor of this or not?
I'm agreeing with you with the more further explanation that the physical shift does not come from physical. It comes from non-physical. Physical shift is guided by non-physical morphogenetic field. Rupert Sheldrake has given the name.
Mm-hmm.
Non-physical morphogenetic field guides the physical and changes the physical physiology.
Okay. How about AI then? What's your perspective on AI in terms of how it interfaces with quantumness?
Artificial intelligence is completely a machine. First of all, it's a machine. It's completely rational. It cannot have intuition by definition. It's just a machinery. So as far as rational things are concerned, step-by-step process of problem solving is concerned, computer can one day beat us. And they're already beating us in certain ways, but they cannot be intuitive. And here is our superiority. We will forever remain superior to the machines because we are conscious and we are intuitive. This intuitive nature is what will lead us to transhumanity someday. And this intuitive nature is what makes us superior to computer. And because computers cannot be conscious, they can never turn itself on. We can always switch it off. We can always pull the plug.
What is your perspective on some people now are offering what they call DNA activations? Have you heard of this?
Well, I don't I don't first of all understand DNA activation. What has been
Well,
proposed?
it'd be the idea that like we have all these strands of DNA and only a couple of them are being activated, and there's a lot more
Yeah. I know,
that would
I know
open
that.
us up. Yeah.
I know that. But how is going to be activated? The point is the activation of DNA is a quantum process.
Okay.
And yes, some parts of the DNA, some of the genes are activated in some organs, and some of the genes are not activated in other organs. It is all true. But it is a quantum process. Quantum science says that it is a quantum process, and that is how the non-material can guide the material, because it is a quantum process. So if it is not a quantum process, I just do not understand how these people are proposing that there can be uh, this particular shift.
Okay. How about dreams? Like, there's a lot of areas of spirituality, and I will put actually dreaming in there because you lean on the importance of dreams, and we're in a different conscious state while we're dreaming. Why are our dreams important, and how can the everyday person utilize what's going on in their dreams to make their lives better in the 3D, if you will?
Wonderful question, Robert. The waking state can bring us certain things, but they do not bring us intuition very easily. These intuitions come in terms of big dreams, in terms of symbology. This is a discovery that Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, made. This intuition comes in dreams much more easily. These big dreams believe it or not, if you pay attention to dreams, you will find that dreams have meaning, and some of the meanings are archetypal. They go beyond the current context of meaning. A new context of meaning is revealed to you by people see sometimes gods and goddesses. That's, by the way, how people discovered gods and goddesses, those images that many cultures still value. Actually, even in Christianity, there is the angels and such. So archangels, angels, they are kind of gods and goddesses. Okay. So what I'm saying is that these images are archetypal images. They really give the context of what we gather by intuition. They're archetypal objects. Intuitions are archetypal objects. And they come to us much more easily through dreams than through waking hours for most people. Of course, once you learn meditating, then intuition becomes a lot easier.
My next question was about the importance of, I know you're a big proponent of meditating. I'm a meditator myself. I do TM every day, and it's really helped me a lot, processing a lot of different things. Talk to us about the importance of meditation.
And that is what I'm saying, that processing is the intuitive processing. The processing that you do, no machine can do. It's only human beings can do. And then this is why you talk this way, you are a loving being and so forth. All these things are beyond the machine capacity.
You also mention in your work, which I love also, affirmations, the power of affirmations. Do they work, and how do they work, and what's the best way to use affirmations for our listeners and viewers?
Affirmation should be taken as intention. It is an intention that I start with myself, but then I want it for everybody. And then most importantly, I want my intention or affirmation to be in consonance with the movement of consciousness. This is the most important thing. And consciousness here, I mean the ground of being. I don't mean personal consciousness or ego. I mean the ground of being. Ground of being has a purposive movement that produces evolution. This we already have talked about. This one-way evolution that proceeds, it's a purposive movement of consciousness. Our desires, our affirmations, our intentions must be in consonance with this purposive movement. Then only our intention comes to us. So one of the reasons people don't get intention because they don't do affirmation regularly. They don't affirm their intention. This intention has to be affirmed and bring into line, bring into complete consonance, congruence with the movement of consciousness.
What is your, and we're running out of time, but I want to get this question in there. ETs, everybody's talking about ETs now, where 10 years ago, if you were talking about ETs, people would say you're crazy. Now, people are pretty accepting of the notion that there are probably other life forms, not only in other planets, galaxies, universes, but also right here on planet Earth. What's your take on ETs, and what do you think is going to happen in terms of disclosure?
I completely agree that ET must exist. How ET exists and how they can be communicated with us, those are questions we still have to answer. Many people are giving many absurd answers based on material beings. Now, material beings are machines. Material beings cannot communicate with neither themselves nor ET. But if you allow quantum physics, then completely, not only the non-material material mix that we are, certainly that same kind of mix exists in other planets. So ET is a completely acceptable concept in quantum science. How to get to communicate to ET, however, is a different question.
Please.
Did they, for example, divide language, discover language?
Light language?
Do they communicate like dolphins with ESP? So, what is it? What kind of communicator would they be? That's a big question. And then the biggest question, of course, is that the outer planets are very far from us. How do we cannot physically communicate with them. So how does this non-physical communication through the software, how does that actually proceed? This is the big question. In the book, Ascent of Humanity, I have made some speculations, but they're speculations. They're not solid science. It is very difficult problem of how we meet the ETs, and B, how we communicate with the ETs. These are very difficult questions to solve.
I agree.
But I'm glad that people are interested, because this is a genuine, authentic, interesting question that goes beyond the physical model of reality, physical model of the human being. Because if human beings are physical beings, then there is absolutely no chance that a being from outer planet could come here with a physical rocket ship. That is absolutely absurd. It never will happen.
Really? Okay. Wouldn't they have to have a ship to get here? Or are you saying it's just like their consciousness?
It is clearly a violation of what we know of physics. Cannot happen.
Okay. All right. Dr. Amit Goswami, the foremost expert on quantum physics. Just always amazing talking to you. And I thank you for just being who you are and doing all the wonderful work, along with your partner, Dr. Valentina Ozanor, who's tremendous also. I know you have a PhD program that you're leading, and also
Yes,
a lot of other stuff. So where can people find out more about you? Real quick, where can they find more about you and get your books and find out about this course?
Our website is amitgoswami.org.
Okay.
AMITGOSWAMI, one word, .org. You can write to us also. The email is info@amitgoswami.org.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you, Valentina. And you're always welcome on Guys Radio. We like to do a deep dive, but we also like to talk about some of the things that are more quote unquote practical, so our audience can actually use these concepts to live their best lives. So thank you so much for being back on the show, Dr. Goswami.
Thank you, Robert. Love to talk to you anytime.
If you enjoy the guests and content I bring you each and every week to Guys TV and Guys Radio, please support us by subscribing to our channels and platforms. Thank you.